he just got a shit hand. He really did, in so many ways. You remember all the injuries and all the other little bits and pieces that happened to him and the clear troubles that he's had. But I wouldn't be a mad one for sort of describing the idea that life gives you a bad hand, but he really sort of got a bad one, I have to say. I don't know if you've seen the documentary, but it's well worth watching.
I didn't see. Yeah, obviously his problems have been well documented. Obviously post retirement. I mean, the tragedy for me in his footballing. I don't think it's his footballing career was a tragedy. My first year at Millwall, I remember Tottenham came down to the Old Den, and it was when we first started, I think, for Millwall. And he played. Lineker played centre forward. Actually, he played in midfield as well. And he was phenomenal. I couldn't get near him. Close control, manipulation of the ball, upper body strength. You know, you try and get tight to people, have a little nibble. Couldn't get near them. Must have got smashed about half a dozen times off his elbow. He literally, oh yeah,
right.
He could look after himself.
What stage of his career? Where was he at that point?
He was at Tottenham.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. He had that. He's brilliant at Tottenham. Absolutely brilliant. But then, in terms of footballing perspective, it all turned. You're talking about he got dealt a bad hand, but that tackle in the FA Cup semi-final, the bad knee injury.
Yeah, that was the one that set everything off. Really,
that wild, ridiculous.
It was a lay challenge. He described
Gary
it.
Charles was stupid, absolutely.
And it's clear,
stupid.
Like he'd accept it was regular.
And he bounced to Lazio from there, but I don't think physically that injury really set him back.
You know, he had agreed to go to United just before he went to Spurs. He was like maybe a year and a half playing for Newcastle, and he had agreed with Alex Ferguson. Ferguson said to him, listen, I'm going off to enjoy my summer holidays, right? You're joining United when I come back. There's no ambiguity about this. And he said, no, that's all happening. Terry Venables rings him up. He'd already been in conversation with Spurs. He was the manager at the time. And he said, listen, I'll get your dad a house, right? Job done, okay?
Sure.
Gaza said, leave it with me. Rings the father. Listen, they're offering you a house. What do you reckon? He's still, I think, kind of thinking, I'm probably still going to go to United. The father's like, you're going to Spurs. That's it, job done. Rings up Terry Venables, said, grand, let's do it. Gets a call back from the father. Listen, your mother wants a car. Will you ring them up and tell them that your mother wants a car? Rings them back. Listen, the mother wants a car. Can you sort that? Yeah, we'll throw in a car. Yeah, no worries. Job done, great. Gets a call from his sister a while later. Listen, I'd really fancy a sunbed. Will you ring them up and tell them I want a sunbed? He rings up Terry Venables and says, my sister wants a sunbed.
That's quite believable.
And they throw it in. And he said that Fergie, it was like took Fergie 6 years to speak to him afterwards, which I can well imagine. But there was tragedy off the field in his life that I didn't fully understand before I watched the documentary.
Oh, really?
Awful tragedy. And I think that's probably the large reason behind.
Yeah, I think possibly so in terms of maybe issues, there that possibly I'm unaware of as well. But I'd never get too downbeat in terms of his footballing career,
but like,
because he was a wonderful player. He had some great times.
What if and what might have been? Isn't there still like some of the games in the finals?
But you can't go down that road. Yeah, you can't go down road. At some point, you got to put it to bed. Just concentrate on what he did. Some of his performances were mesmeric. Like the time that he had Newcastle, Tottenham, England. I remember even Andy Townsend spent some time back at Middlesbrough. They both played there. And he couldn't speak highly of him. Absolute, mad heart. You know, you could do absolutely anything. You were talking about maybe deep-rooted problems, maybe, why he became that type of personality. That's how it manifested or whatever. You're going on to a deeper level there. But in terms of the actual personality, who he spent time around the football club in the dressing room, they loved him, the players loved him, management loved him, people around the football club, absolutely wonderful personality to have.
Great team, I'd imagine.
Yeah, and obviously a wonderful talent, couldn't perform them at the level that he had previously for obvious reasons, the knee injury in particular.
Loved his time at Rangers, which was, you always sort of reflected.
Yeah, true.
Loved his time at Rangers, sort of really enjoyed it, kind of. Probably was free of a lot of the shackles, had a bit of a chip on his shoulder because a lot of Scottish press were saying, listen, this guy isn't going to cut it up here, he's not going to be able to get it done, and had a rare old time by all accounts.
A brilliant career though, Age. You can get too caught up in what if. I've gone down that road and mentioned the injury, what if potentially, and I think that's relevant, but even still, what he actually did during his time in the football pitch was amazing. He was a wonderful talent.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Once in a generation level talent, like his natural. He spoke about how obsessed he was with the football. He got his first football at 7, I think, and he said he used to climb out his bedroom window, climb down the drain chute, and be out the back just knocking the ball around. Just clearly obsessed.
Yeah, but the type of player he was basically a midfield. He was a attacking midfield player. But he was a passer. I talk about maybe Pogba there in terms he can play any type of game, deep, long pass. He can pass it short. He can affect the game in the last third. I mean, Gascoigne could do all that, but what Gascoigne could do as well, and very few midfielders can, he could travel up the pitch with the ball beyond people. He could dribble past people. He could actually drop his shoulder and go beyond a little burst of pace, acceleration. I haven't seen it in too many, if any. Probably Wilshere a number of years ago when he first burst onto the scene had that close control.
Rooney.
No, I wouldn't say Rooney's not midfielder, but Rooney's
sorry, not in terms
forward.
of the position, but in terms of the skill set.
Yeah, but I'm talking about an orthodox central midfield player. For me, Gascoigne had that. Only Wilshere I saw at a young age with the ability to travel with the ball, drop his shoulder and go beyond people, accelerate 10 yards and actually leave people in his way, was in possession of the football. Obviously he could pass past people as well, 1-2s and that type of thing. Individual skill was there, but he really had everything. Defensively, fair enough, but in possession of football, Gascoigne really had everything. Yeah,
and those balls that he had no right to win, or positions he had no right to be in, that he would just sort of seamlessly sort of manifest himself into, was just incredible. But I highly recommend watching that. I don't even remember the name of it, to be honest, but it was on, I don't know where it was on last night. It came onto my TV after I'd been watching the matches last night. It must have been on Virgin, and it's a watch. Right, that's a bit of a tangent. Champions League continues, and the scorelines that we have around the grounds at the minute are Real Madrid have gone 2-0 up at home to Roma as things stand at the minute. That's not the game I'm looking for. Let's see, can we get that one more time? There we go. Real Madrid 2. Isco and Gareth Bale with the goals there, 45 and 58 respectively. They lead Roma by 2-0. Juventus are 2-0 now up on Valencia. That's 10-man Juventus, by the way, after Cristiano Ronaldo was sent off for... I mean, we've looked at it a few times. He sort of tangled with one of the Valencia defenders as he ran into the box with the ball nowhere near them, by the way.
Yeah.
But it wasn't that he was sent off for. I say that he kind of grabbed the guy's hair a little bit. You'd say it was more of a ruffle.
Scrunch.
A scrunch.
Is the word I used.
I'd kind of say that he just shouldn't have done it either way. He shouldn't have.
No, it was weak.
Shouldn't have made the referee make a decision.
No, he shouldn't have done. But I can understand his frustration. Defender trying to make a meal out of the initial contact. There wasn't much there. It's like he was just letting the defender. Now he put his hands on his head. That's what it felt like to me. Like literally just a little tassel, a little scrunch of his hair. That was a total overreaction. I'm not sure what information the referee was given. I think the referee saw potentially an official behind the goal maybe gave the referee the information. I wouldn't be surprised if it's rescinded. I said it to you before, a few minutes after that. We'll see how powerful he is now. Yeah, in the corridors.
For what reason will it be
rescinded? He's such a huge personality. You know what I mean? He's been the face of the Champions League football like for the past 10 years. You could argue is the absolute golden boy. So
because as I said, he misses 2 games, one of which would be against Manchester United.
But it's just the fact he's not there. He's not available. He's not going to be playing Champions League. Champions League football night is huge, and he's been a massive part of it over the past number of years, like I've said. And I think the pictures I've seen, there's an argument there for saying that's an overreaction.
Yeah.
I think
I absolutely think you could argue that. I do think that he shouldn't have made the referee ask a decision.
I think we'll find out soon enough.
It is Young Boys of Bern 0, Manchester United 2 in the game that we're watching here. It was Paul Pogba after 35 minutes with a beautiful little sort of dig it out with the left foot, top corner, beautiful goal after 35 minutes, and he followed it up with a penalty in 44 minutes after a judged handball by one of the Young Boys defenders. So it's 2-0 to Manchester United there. The penalty, Kenny, you're saying?
Not for me, because I felt the defender's arm was in a natural position by his side. Shaw, when he struck the cross, was only maybe about 2 yards away from him. He fizzed it as well. So they're the kind of contributory factors for me, as I understand it, in terms of why a penalty is given. Distance between players, the pace the ball is travelling at, and the actual position of the defender's arm isn't in a natural position. Yes, it was for me, so it didn't warrant a penalty. But United have been the better team. Like I said, Adrian, I like what I'm saying. Even the first Pogba goal in this formation, this is what you want to see. The front three nice and narrow. The 2 advanced midfielders, Pogba and Fred, in contact. So you've almost got a front 5 down that middle third of the pitch and around the penalty box. So they're in a position to combine, play little 1-2s, which is kind of what Pogba did with Fred. Might be a bit fortunate the ball came back to him. And obviously you got full-backs inching forward, looking to give a little bit of width if needed, particularly Shaw down the left-hand side. So that's why I like this particular formation. Fred has had some nice moments, you know, some good technique, quite dynamic over the ground. You know, hasn't been breathtaking, but has shown enough for me to suggest, well, this, you know, he's got to stick with this, Mourinho. For me, I'll be putting this team on the pitch again at the weekend. Certainly that middle three. For that middle three, I've got to play together as often as possible.
Yeah.
That front six, I could argue in particular.
Well, on that point, you were very excited pre-kickoff when we brought the team news that Rashford was starting on the left-hand side, that he'd been done away from this right-hand side role, that was going to be his thing. Impressions of what you've seen so far? Yeah,
I do. He's shown enough for me. And what I like, I've seen them switch. I've seen Rashford and Martial switch wings. I've seen Fred and Pogba do the same, albeit in those central areas of the pitch, move left and right. So there's been kind of good rotation ahead of the ball. Everybody comfortable in different areas of the pitch. And you know, they've popped the ball 1-2 touch, like I said, good energy, real pace throughout the team. I think defensively they look solid. The young fullbacks really impressed me. Big talk from Mourinho before the game. You mentioned, you quoted Mourinho's words. Yeah, I can understand it from what I've seen in this half. Hasn't been perfect, got caught once, 1v1, lost his balance and nearly let his man in. But generally speaking, for a young boy, at this level, really impressive.
Do you know what? I'll be honest, I read those quotes and they're pretty positive about Dalot.
But we should be hearing more of that.
Best full-back in Europe at this age grade, physical, tactical intelligence, technical quality. Yeah. I kind of thought, that's Jose Mourinho. Maybe he's fine, but actually, on the evidence so far, he's.
I'd love to see a lot more of that from Mourinho, talking up his players. He said Luke Shaw needed more of that last year when he was going through a bad spell. Look at the talent that he is now. Has
Mourinho been proven right on Luke Shaw?
I don't think so. No, I don't buy into that, because the lad has turned things around. He's playing at the level somehow. Mourinho's at the reason for it. I think he nearly buried him personally last year. Mourinho. I think he was very lucky. He nearly lost the player. Yeah. I think he was nearly out the door at the football club. I don't think Mourinho helped the situation. That's easy for me looking in.
It probably reflects better on Luke Shaw than it does on.
Yeah, I think so. That's what I'm saying. I give Luke Shaw, the family, people, friends around him, that he kept quiet. You know, kept his counsel, got his head down, stuck at it, and has kind of turned his career around at Manchester. You know, for me, at times, it's felt as if it's been in spite of Mourinho rather than, you know, because of him, his kind of man management. 65
minutes gone at the Etihad Stadium. Manchester City 0, Lyon 2. It's Cornet with the first goal there after 26 minutes, and then just before half-time, Nabil Fekir, one of France's World Cup stars, put them 2-0 up. It's Pep Guardiola-less Manchester City tonight, obviously. He's suspended after sending off at the back end of last season's Champions League, and Mikel Arteta is in the dugout. Brief thoughts about this one, Kenny? Some of the word that we're getting from the Etihad, words like complacent, lacking urgency, concerning.
Yeah, well, at this level you get what you deserve. I think our last thoughts, we said a caveat before, when you asked for your comments about the game, we said, look, you got to show this team a little bit of respect, Lyon, in terms of the quality, the danger that they have high up the pitch, Fekir in particular. And this is a Lyon team, Adrian, which is used to...
Oof. That is 3-0 to Manchester United, by the way.
Yeah.
That's Martial that just tucks it away at the near post.
Yeah.
The break initially, I think, by Pogba.
It's really, I'm really pleased for Martial. Again, I'm a big fan of Martial. When he first came to the football club as a centre forward, remember, Adrian, he absolutely ripped it up. He looked outstanding. You know, you thought, oh, this lad's going to stay in the team for the next 10 years. He was that good. And obviously, he's had his problems as well. He's been questioned by the manager, but the talent that he's got.
Rashford plays a big role in that too.
He does. Pogba as well, striding, driving forward from that central midfield position.
Take a bit of deflection, Kenny, off
picking the right ball. Yeah, it does, but he does all the right things. Opens his body up. He's looking to put it in the opposite corner, but defender has to. It's a desperate lunge at a tackle, but you get your rewards. But that's what I like. This I'm talking about Pogba. We've seen him drop deep for the second United goal, drop deep, hit a 40-yard ball out to Luke Shaw prior to the penalty. We've seen the quality getting around the box for the first goal, and now the third goal, he's driving forward from that central midfield position. Yeah. You know what I mean? Eating up the ground and then getting his head up. Yeah, perfect way on the pass to Martial. This is how good this lad is at Pogba. It's absolutely ridiculous now that you think that the talk was this lad might leave the football club, he might be out the door. You've got to build this team. If he's going to build a dynasty at this football club, Mourinho, he's got to build it around this player, Pogba. he really is that good. He has to tap into not just the potential, the quality that he has. It's there. He's just got to get the best out of it, and part of that is the tactical setup of the team and putting him in there in the pitch where he can best influence the game. And in this position he's playing tonight, for me, is where he can do it.
Yeah, he's done it tonight, that is for sure. Right, Manchester United, I mean, the expression that's used is that they're par for the course, but they're well under par at this point, to sort of extend that golf analogy out. Kenny, I know you like a bit of the old Ryder Cup action coming up. 3-0 up their lead, and we have Manchester City 2-0 down at home to Lyon, so we'll have more reaction to that. We're going to talk to Dan McDonnell about the possibility that the World Cup is coming to Ireland, and we're going to talk Arsenal next with Andrew Mangan.
Football on Off the Ball,
in association with the faster than ever Boyle Sports app, with hundreds of pre-live and in-play football markets. Download it now. Boyle Sports, time to play.
The Pat Kenny Show.
We're getting gusts of 120 kilometres per hour, so it's very, very gusty and windy. And Pat, to be honest with you, I'm actually doing this interview from a Portaloo simply because the wind is so strong you wouldn't be able to hear me. Other Portaloos have blown over, but I've been told this one is safe.
Henry, too much information.
The Pat Kenny Show.
With MasterCard.
Back tomorrow at 9 a.m. on News Talk.
You should definitely call your ex at 4 in the morning. Sure, she hasn't heard from you in ages.
I think you should tell your boss exactly what you think of her. She'll appreciate your honesty.
That boa constrictor would make a great family pet. The kids will love it.
Not all advice is created equal. At financialbroker.ie, we're the experts in professional, impartial financial advice. So for advice on life insurance, pensions and investments, and everything in between, find your local financial broker at financialbroker.ie.
Hey, I'm Roz Purcell, and I'm on Repak's Team Green. We want people in Ireland recycling more plastic because it's so important we protect our environment. If everyone put one extra piece of plastic a week in the recycle bin, we could recycle 250 million more plastic items a year. Join me on Repak's Team Green, and let's all play our part in recycling. Together, we can become environmental champions. Visit repak.ie to find out more.
It's the feeling of always being the designated driver for weekends away. Smiling thinly while another colleague is praised for your work. Pulling out your wallet when your friend skips out on their round again. Getting used doesn't feel good, unless you're getting a Skoda-approved used car. With 110 multi-point quality check to ensure every car feels like new, you'll want to get used.
Coast Guard Rescue, bringing them up.
Every time you make it Maldron, you save a tenner.
Well, you don't actually save a tenner. You save a tenner. Like 10 euros. It's good though that you did that.
Make it Maldron. Save a tenner. Book now at maldronhotels.com.
Bring us up!
Terms and conditions apply.
So, there you are, in work, online, having a sneaky look at that Samsung appliance you want. In fairness, they are gorgeous. Once you get a Samsung American fridge freezer, there's no going back. And now Samsung are offering cash back on loads of products at appliancesdelivered.ie. You can save between €40 and €340 till November 6th on fridge freezers, washing machines, dishwashers. Sketch, boss is coming. T's and C's apply. Check out the Samsung cashback offer at appliancesdelivered.ie.
The HPV vaccine protects girls from getting cervical cancer when they grow up. More than 200,000 girls in Ireland have safely received the HPV vaccine. The vaccine will be offered free to all girls in their first year of secondary school.
I got the HPV vaccine.
I got the HPV vaccine.
I got the HPV vaccine.
Find out how safe and effective the HPV vaccine is at hpv.ie.
Get the vaccine, protect our future.
From the HSE.
So, item 1, rebranding. What's the update, Michelle?
All done.
Within budget?
Yes, we partnered with Snap. They handled all of it, creative design and production, the printing, promo and signage and installation.
And our online design changes?
Snap rebranded everything.
The entire nationwide project?
Yes, Snap is the largest print design and promotional product group in Ireland. Over 70% of Ireland's top 1,000 companies trust Snap. Need a marketing partner with quality solutions? Talk to Snap. Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Mayo and Galway. Visit snap.ie.
Off the Ball. This is News Talk.
Manchester City back in the game. Bernardo Silva has scored for Man City, so they now trail Lyon by 2-1. 71 minutes gone at the Etihad, so still plenty of time for the City team to get themselves back in the game. And Manchester United 3-0 up on Young Boys of Bern. 72 minutes gone in Switzerland. They come very close there to claw one back themselves, but that's the way things stand in the Champions League. It's Real Madrid 2, Roma 0, Victoria Pilsen 2, CSKA Moscow 1. We told you earlier on, 10-man Juventus 2-0 up at Valencia. Cristiano Ronaldo sent off. Kenny thinks he's going to get that rescinded and that he's going to be available to play against Manchester United. Young Boys 0, United 3. The latest scores there in the Champions League this evening. Now, we wanted to talk a little bit about Arsenal. We have mentioned this before, that the CEO, Ivan Gazidis, has left the club, so we want to get a sense of what that means for the club going forward. I'm sure Arsenal fans are interested in that, and to do it, I'm delighted to say we're joined on the line by Andrew Mangan of Arseblog. Evening to you, Andrew.
Good evening, how's it going?
All good, thanks a million for taking the call this evening. So Ivan Gazidis, been at the club for 10 years, he's now left, gone to AC Milan. Arsenal fans, I suppose, wanted to know, Andrew, if it's going to cause any upset at the club, or has he already put all the blocks in place that's going to lessen his departure?
I think he's done a lot of work this summer, certainly in the last 12 months, to put in place structures which weren't there when Arsene Wenger was the manager. Nobody's really crying any tears over the departure of Gazidis, to be honest. He's done an okay job, I think, since he joined the club in 2009, and you could say it hasn't been an easy job for him at times because of what's been going on at board level and the power that Wenger had, and having to wrest that power away from him a little bit. But I think the club are better placed to deal with his departure than they would have been 12 months ago, and certainly better than they would have been with Wenger still there. So it's an interesting development. I think the issue was that the rumours about him going to Milan, I think they were causing instability as much as anything else, and he hadn't said anything publicly about the move. So now that there's clarity, the club can move forward.
Yeah. Has he avoided a lot of the flack that would have come Wenger's way in terms of the running of the club? Because, I mean, you could say that, you talk about the wresting of the power from Wenger, that he could have been a bit stronger in those discussions.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a feeling that many fans have, that he sat there on the sidelines or sat at the boardroom and didn't say a word for a long time. The club have been a bit inactive at board level. Even this Gazidis situation, you could say that they haven't acted with the kind of decisiveness that they should have. You know, when your chief executive is being linked with a move away and nobody says anything about it for months, bar a fairly perfunctory statement from Arsenal, it speaks to perhaps the boardroom, the culture at Arsenal that really has needed changing as well. And I think with Stan Kroenke about to take 100% control, there are going to be changes. They've already appointed a new head of football. They've appointed a new managing director. There's probably going to be more involvement from Josh Kroenke, so perhaps they're going to change things at that level too, and that might alter the way things are done for better or worse.
They're all internal appointments, right?
Yeah, Raul Sanllehi is the guy who's going to be head of football. He was a former Barcelona director of football, and the former chief commercial officer is now going to be the managing director, and he'll look after the business side of things. So they've appointed a very experienced guy to look after the football side of the club. Sanllehi is a fairly smooth operator, very efficient operator, did some good work at Barcelona. He was also with Nike, so he's got plenty of connections. And if he's given the room to operate the way that a guy like that should be given room to operate, then he could be a very positive influence on the way that Arsenal go forward from here.
Yeah, and despite I suppose at the root of it, Andrew, the reason we want to talk about it was that, Wenger is gone, and so certainly the outward assumption looking in was that suddenly this club was, this conversation we're having is they need to grow pair, right? Like that's sort of where we're at here, that was going to result in that, and that maybe it hasn't done, but that maybe they're now on the path to that finally. Is that your sense of what fans are thinking at the minute?
Well, look, there's optimism, obviously, because there's a new manager. There are new structures in place. I think under Wenger, it was a very, I won't say antiquated, but it was the way things were done, where one man had all the power at a football club. We saw it with Wenger. We saw it with Alex Ferguson. And modern football clubs don't operate that way. They need to sort of have these executive structures in place. Obviously, you've got to get those working right, and you've got to get those people working together. But I think Arsenal are better placed now to deal with the demands of modern football. They've made a huge amount of changes. I've just been doing a post for the website here to put a list of all the changes that have taken place since May 2017, when Wenger was given his new contract, and they've changed things at medical level. They've changed things. They've contract guys come in. They've got a new head of recruitment. Obviously, there's a new head coach, a whole pile of new coaching staff, a new academy manager. So much has changed at Arsenal in the space of 12 to 16 months. It's now about whether or not all those pieces can come together in a cohesive manner and help bring the club forward.
Yeah, and like the fact that they're obviously not playing Champions League, they're going to struggle to make the top four. I mean, they're already, and I know it's very early doors, and I know there's a new manager and all that stuff, but they're already 6 points back, obviously. Is there a concern that this is a team that have fallen out of the top four for some time to come?
Of course, yeah. I mean, you couldn't look at the way that Arsenal played last season and think this is a club that will immediately bounce back into the Champions League places, particularly when you look at the strength of some of the other teams. So we're in a strange position where we're looking at Unai Emery and trying to figure out exactly what it is that he's trying to do with this team, this squad of players, how he's going to get them playing. There are clearly some issues right at this moment in time, but I think people are willing to give that time, obviously, and they're optimistic that he can get things back in the right direction, although it might not happen this season.
What do you think, Kenny?
Yeah, Andrew, how's it going? Ken Cunningham, are you well?
I'm all right, thanks. Hi.
Yeah, Andrew, you mentioned obviously the amount of changes that have been made at the football club, but I'm sure the majority of fans would agree the most important appointment was that of the head coach, Unai Emery. Obviously a reasonably impressive CV coming into the football club. I know it's early in his managerial career at Arsenal, but from what you've seen of the team and kind of the manner, the style of play under the new manager, bearing in mind the qualities of the individual players which he has at his disposal at this moment in time, how do you feel he's handling the situation and managing the team with what he's got available to him?
It's a difficult one because you have to look at everything in the context of it just being 5 games. It's so hard to make definitive judgments on his work and the players and how the players are dealing with what he's asking of them. I think some of them are clearly struggling a little bit. Petr Cech, for example, with the ball at his feet, is having a difficult time. That's something everybody can see. But actually, in terms of his goalkeeping itself, he's been pretty good. Defensively, you've got worries about how these guys are going to come together. But there is a lot of talent still at Arsenal. There's a lot of goals when you look at Aubameyang, Lacazette, Mesut Ozil, Mkhitaryan, Aaron Ramsey. There is real talent there as well. So it's about him perhaps trying to get the defensive side of things right. And I think that's a big challenge. It will be a big challenge for any manager.
Andrew, where do you stand on the Ozil debate? It's quite obviously had quite a privileged position under Arsenal Wenger. Already, I wouldn't say we've seen some confrontations between him and the manager, but certainly a little bit of tension in terms of some of the comments made by the manager in terms of what he expects from his players, and Ozil in particular in terms of kind of defensive mindset, work rate, and mentality in terms of the team coming before yourself. How do you see that kind of relationship at the moment between manager and player? And do you think medium to long term there is a future for Ozil at the football club?
I think that's up to him. There's no question that he was indulged by Arsene Wenger, and you know yourself from playing that there are some guys who need a kick up the arse and some guys who need an arm around the shoulder, and he's very much the arm around the shoulder and both shoulders, and he needs sometimes a little pillow to lie down on as well. And that worked for Wenger. He did get good performances out of him, but I think Emery is right to demand more from him. He's 29 years of age, coming on 30. He's the biggest earner at the club. He's earning massive money, 350 grand a week. He has a responsibility to take responsibility on the pitch and to contribute in a positive way. But my sense is that he's a very popular guy around the club. People like him, the players like him, and we know that there is real talent there. I do worry a little bit that perhaps it might not go as well as people might like. But in other ways, I hope Ozil responds to the demands that Emery places upon him, because I think if he does, he could get something really good out of him.
Yeah, I think you're right, Andrew. And you mentioned with the talent high up the pitch, when you look at the Arsenal team, easy to look at maybe the defensive frailties and obviously the trouble they're having of late in terms of how the manager wants them to play out the back. You got a goalkeeper is uncomfortable with the ball at his feet, particularly when he's put under any kind of pressure. You could probably make that argument as well for the two centre halves. So Kratis has come in. He wasn't a Wenger signing. It looks as if Mislintat, with his connections with Dortmund, was highly influential, bringing him to the football club. And he's a big-hearted player, old-school player for me, in terms of heart on his sleeve, in terms of a sophisticated centre-half who can play out from the back and tight areas. I'd question Mustafi as well. It seems to be having a crisis in confidence. So the interesting thing for me, you mentioned the fact early in Emery's career, but a manager as experienced as him, who's had a whole pre-season with the players, you would think a degree of practicality would come into his thoughts in terms of he might have a picture in his head of how he wants the team to play going forward. But at the moment in time, with the players he has available, particularly across that defensive line and those central back areas, and the goalkeeper, Lennon might offer him different options. For me, the best managers they're chameleons to a certain extent. You have to be practical, and although ultimately he may want to play a certain way at the moment with the players he has available to him, does he have to tweak that philosophy to an extent to get ultimately where he wants to go?
He might well do, yeah. I mean, the flip side of that is that they're never going to learn how to do it unless they keep doing it. So, I think most of the Arsenal players are pretty comfortable with the ball at their feet. I've got big issues with Mustafi's defending, but he's actually a decent passer of the ball. The two fullbacks are decent as well. Perhaps the answer might be just to do something a little bit different in midfield, and Arsenal fans are really looking to the Uruguayan who came in during the summer, Lucas Torreira, somebody who can perhaps drop deeper and give them that outlet ball, give them that ball that will take some of the pressure off the defenders when they're in possession. He also offers the team something a bit different from a defensive point of view as well.
Looks like somebody who enjoys his defending, which they haven't had so many of them over the years, Andrew.
Yeah, he's a bit snappy in the tackle, and he likes to get around the pitch. He's zippy, and he is probably a real defensive midfielder, which Arsenal haven't had for a long time. So perhaps that's the way to offset some of the defensive issues, is to make the midfield a bit more solid, and then that in turn could help free up some of the attacking players.
Andrew, I know you're buzzing for the Europa League tomorrow night, so
sure.
We might catch up with you at some point on the track. Thanks a million for taking the call.
Not at all, my pleasure.
That's Andrew Mangan there of arsblog.com. Definitely worth checking out for all your Arsenal goodness. The scorelines that we gave you a little while ago remain the same. City still 2-1 down with 5 minutes to go at home to Lyon. Madrid still 2-0 up in Roma. Juventus still 2-0 up at Valencia, and United leading Young Boys of Bern by 3-0. That is the state of play. We're going to be talking about the potential of the World Cup to come to Ireland with Dan McDonnell and McKenny as well very shortly. But a reminder that all this week we're giving you the chance to win the prize of a lifetime. You could be part of the Croke Park Challenge on October 23rd for Self-Help Africa. It's your chance to live the All-Ireland Day experience, including playing at Croker in a Cork versus Mayo match with sporting legends like Con Cooper, Aidan O'Shea, Henry Shefflin will be there, and Dean Rock as well. We're going to be also be adding some other players from the Dubs panel, I'm sure, as well as members of the Irish rugby team, as we can confirm also that one Nathaniel Murphy will be lining out in Mayo jersey. So the prize is going to include a pre-match meal in Leinster House, police escorted buses to Croker, a full match day kit. The match itself will be on the hallowed turf, of course, of Croker. Post-game reception in the Players' Lounge, gala dinner as well. And to be with the chance of winning, all you have to do is tell us how many Senior All-Ireland football titles Mayo have won. Text your name and your answer to 53106 for 30 cents. And we'll get back in touch with you after the show this evening. It's all with thanks, as I mentioned, to Self-Help Africa. And for more details, you can get yourself along to selfhelpafrica.org. Ireland and the World Cup after these.
Off the Ball on News Talk.
This 200-page report for your board meeting was printed using a branded ink cartridge. And this 200-page report was printed using a high-grade ink cartridge from inkjet.ie. What's the difference? Oh, about €15. Get quality ink cartridges from just €2 and fast delivery at inkjet.ie.
First thing in the morning with a spoon or two of marmalade. A midday treat with a dollop of honey. At lunch with a bowl of vegetable soup. When you arrive home from work with a fresh pot of tea. Last thing at night but not every night, with a little chocolate spread. Make the mosty of your toasty.
Johnson, Mooney, and O'Brien for your favourite fresh baked bread.
There's history in the baking.
A business needs to be creative to stay ahead of the game. And creative brains need space to think. Give them space. Think better. But let's do it with a little style. Castleknock means business. Discover more at castleknockhotel.com.
So, there you are, in work, online, having a sneaky look at that Samsung appliance you want. In fairness, they are gorgeous. Once you get a Samsung American fridge freezer, there's no going back. And now Samsung are offering cash back on loads of products at appliancesdelivered.ie. You can save between €40 and €340 till November 6th on fridge freezers, washing machines, dishwashers. Sketch, boss is coming. T's and C's apply. Check out the Samsung cashback offer at appliancesdelivered.ie.
In Germany, we don't simply wash our cars, we Krenzels them. We don't merely hose down our driveways, we Krenzels them clean. Construction and farm machinery? You can be confident they get a Krenzeling.
Kranzel power washers are 100% German-made and engineered. Distributed in Ireland by CA Galvin Limited for over 35 years, Kranzel machines are renowned for their quality and are built to last. Kranzel have the power washer to suit your needs for any domestic, industrial or agricultural use. Visit kranzel.ie for your nearest dealer.
I think it's mad that everyone thinks all insurers are the same. Chill Insurance compares 14 different insurers to get you the best deal. Chill Insurance Limited, trading as Chill Insurance, is regulated by the Central Bank of Ireland.
It's time to get your hands on the highly anticipated new Audi A6. Because during the Audi exclusive test drive event from the 17th to the 29th of September, you'll be the first to preview the latest Audi luxury range. So whatever your driving desire, there's an Audi just for you. Visit Audi.ie and book your exclusive test drive today. Audi. Vorsprung durch Technik.
Off the ball. This is News Talk.
They don't have long left to rescue it now. Manchester City still trailing Lyon by 2-1 into the dying embers of that game at the Etihad. And Manchester City, as somebody on Twitter points out, with 7 left-footed players on the pitch. Tom Williams, the football writer. Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's the rationale behind their fact that they're behind here, but
the fact they have 7 players below 5'2", would that be a factor?
That might be a factor. I mean, I think are you exaggerating to make your point, Kenny? Is that
bit of hyperbole?
Listen, I'm all for it. That's how things stand. Manchester United leading Young Boys of Bern in Switzerland by 3-0, and Cristiano Ronaldo, who was sent off in that game for scrunching, grabbing, whatever way you want to call it, one of the opponent's hair.
Scrunch. Technically,
grab.
you'll find it was a scrunch.
Grab. He was sent off in that game, and as it stands, misses the Manchester United game of the Champions League, but Kenny says it'll all be fine. He's going to get off. Now, we'll have final reflections from Kenny on those before we leave you in a little bit, but before all of that, a statement in from the FAI this evening, in case you haven't heard this one. Following recent positive discussions amongst all parties, it's been agreed that the Football Association of Ireland will join the English, Irish, Welsh and Scottish FAs in conducting a feasibility review into a potential joint bid to host the 2030 FIFA World Cup. Dan McDonnell, football's coming home.
Football's coming nearby, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what the official slogan to it could be. Yeah, I mean, it's early days, lads. I mean, it's this sort of prospect of Ireland being involved was mooted at the beginning of the month, and there was sort of reports coming out of a couple of the English papers that clearly had been briefed, I guess, from that neck of the woods, and the view was that bringing Ireland into an already established sort of feasibility study involving the England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, the view was that the Republic of Ireland could solve a few problems, as in it might be a bit more of a vote winner. It might just help out, get some people on board. I don't know, it's because we're deemed to be more charming or good at that type of thing. And also, secondly, because Northern Ireland, while part of the bid plan, don't have a suitable stadium at all. at this point, whereas Dublin would have two very obvious viable venues in Aviva Stadium primarily, and also Croke Park if the GAA were up for it. So that would be the rationale in being drafted into what was already a plan that was sort of on the table.
So this essentially is because I mean clearly England have all the capacity to go this alone if needs be, a political play then.
Absolutely, yeah. And I mean, ironically enough, I think it was Sepp Blatter who spoke about this earlier in the year. I think it was actually during the World Cup in Russia. He was going on about this, that, bringing Ireland involved, there would be some, the spirit of unity and peace and hands across the border and that type of thing. And also, I mean, I suppose the four UK nations as such they'd be part of the International Football Board. They would have a block of power and influence, and I suppose the feeling might be that they mightn't be hugely popular. And bring the Dublin element to the whole thing, and it might suddenly be deemed more attractive, I guess. I mean, that is the concept. But it is England that are primarily driving this. It is England, you would imagine, where most of the major games would take place if this came to pass. But it seems like they're looking at seriously putting a bid together with the FAI part of the mix.
So the assumption is that because if you're playing the political game, then you sort of select maybe one ground around those nations, Millennium Stadium, either Hampden or Celtic Park. I mean, by the sounds of things, maybe a revamped Windsor, if that's going to be an option. And if so, just one of the stadiums in Dublin. What's your thinking?
Oh, it's very early days. No, it's possible there could be two. I mean, it's possible there could be two, certainly. I mean, there's nothing against having two stadiums in the same city. I mean, that happened in Moscow this summer. It happened in Johannesburg. So, I mean, there is a precedent in World Cups. And, I mean, those two, there'd be minimal cost involved, really. They'd need a bit of an upgrade in parts, but, it would be a different story. I mean, this is a feasibility study. I'm sure they'll look at other options. But, I mean, they would be the two natural ones in terms of cost that wouldn't require a huge amount of work. So, that would be the angle. Now, if you look at 2026, there's 16 stadiums, I think, with 10 in America, 3 in Canada and 3 in Mexico, and they're not hosting any of the games, as in Canada and Mexico aren't hosting any of the games after the second round. And there's obviously a geographical aspect to that as well. So I don't know if that would be part of the plan here, but there's just obstacles to cross. Also as well, with 5 nations, they wouldn't all get to automatically qualify, which sort of removes one of the the big selling points of sometimes hosting a tournament is that you get to be in it. With 5, it would just be too many. That wouldn't get past.
Maybe they do a lottery and sort of, England.
With our luck, we'd qualify. We'd end up being stationed in Scotland.
So the lottery angle could lead to some tensions, I feel.
I think it's our best chance, Dan. I'm not going to lie to you.
Dan, how concerned would you be about the kind of the rival bid? It looks as if Argentina, Uruguay and the third South American country were spoken about as kind of a rival bids, and obviously got the connection of Uruguay first ever World Cup, got 1930, it'd be the kind of centenary of that, wouldn't it? So clearly there's a bit of a pull towards that side of the world for those reasons as well. So clearly would you consider that a serious bid, albeit the fact it doesn't seem too long we've had a World Cup in Brazil? That would clearly be the obvious rival.
Yeah, big time. I mean, I actually met a fella in the summer in Russia who was like a journalist from Argentina who was like, he'd heard about Sepp Blatter talking about Ireland, and he was very energised by it because it is a big story there. It's Argentina, Uruguay and Paraguay that are the three. Now, they're actually a bit perplexed that Paraguay has been brought into it, but I think there's just an element of, with the 48 team, it seems like, the concept of 3 countries now might become the norm to a point. And there's huge emotional pull, but you've sort of touched on the points there, Kenny. Like, emotionally, there's a huge selling point, the history of going back to where the inaugural tournament was, 100 years on. But the flip side is it would only be 16 years since the previous tournament in the region, whereas the angle in favour of Europe would be, you're going back to 2006. And also as well, I think the rules preclude that, like, there can't be an Asian bid and there can't be a North American bid because of the tournaments in the interim. So maybe there was some talk of Morocco and Africa going for it again, but I think certainly it would be that South American bid that would still possibly be a favourite, particularly with the 3 countries aspect as well, probably being a bit more straightforward in some way.
Dan, thanks a million. We look forward to 2030 football coming home. Cheers.
Thanks, lad.
Cheers, Dan.
Dan McDonnell for the Irish Independent on the line there, discussing all things Ireland bid. Full times are in. Manchester City have been beaten 2-1 at home by Lyon in a blow to their Champions League aspirations. Clearly a very early blow there. Not one that they can't recover from, but a blow nevertheless. Full time as well in Switzerland, where it's Young Boys 0, Manchester United 3 is the final score there. Earlier on we asked you to tell us how many All-Ireland senior football titles Mayo had won. The answer is, Kenny says 2. The answer is 3. Congratulations to Paul Craig, who knew one better than Kenny. He's now in the draw to win that Ultimate Croke Park experience on the 23rd of October. If you missed out tonight, though, we're going to give you another chance to win tomorrow night. And if you miss out then, do remember to get your tickets along at selfhelpafrica.org. And it's all with thanks to Self Help Africa. And for more details, get yourself along to that website. Tomorrow morning, OTBAM live at 7:45. It's on youtube.com/off the ball, Facebook and Twitter as well. Jaron Owen going to be joined, Kenny, by the hardest working man in football. He's stolen the crown from one Kevin Caban. It's the one and only.
So I was drifting there. I was miles away. Sorry.
On OTBAM tomorrow is the one and only.
Oh, that'd be you.
Kenny Cunningham.
Oh, right, me, yeah. I got my sleeping bag on the floor.
We haven't had any opportunity to react to the full time, so you're going to be doing all of that. No, it's in the morning. No problem. I look forward to it. Thanks a million for coming in this evening, by the way. Really pleasure. As always, you're going to be back with us in a couple of weeks' time for the next round of Champions League matches.
As it doesn't clash with the Ryder Cup weekend.
I think we're in the clear.
Yeah, we're all right, yeah.
Tomorrow night, John Giles in studio for another packed night of European football. Arsenal and Chelsea in action in the Europa League. Mick Fennelly stopping by to talk about the hurling team of the year. And Dan McDonnell in studio as well. Up next, Richie in for Tom Dunn. Good night, good luck.